Podcast City Network.
This is Final Score, your number one podcast for sports news. Here are your hosts, Chris and Craig.
Hey guys, we are here for another exciting episode of Final Score, episode 92. And I know we took a little bit of a break, trying to get some things dealt with on the back end of life, but we are back because, hey, we can't miss the Super Bowl, man. That's what we're here for.
My bad, guys. My bad. I tried to do the producing last week, and you clearly saw how that worked. Technology has not been kind to me this week. But hey, we're back this week. We've got Chris back, and basically all is good in the world of Final Score now. Our producer is back. This is what happens when you let me do things on my own.
We can't give you any kind of things to play with. My goodness. No.
I can't have nice things. I can't.
But no, we definitely have a great show lined up for today. But to make sure that you keep up with all things Final Score, you got to follow us on social media at PCN Final Score on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Make sure to go on there, give us a like, give us a follow. Check out all the great stuff that we have going on over there. But we have a big announcement to make as well, don't we?
Absolutely. So this week, actually yesterday, our parent network, Podcast City Network, we've announced there's a brand new podcast coming network and joining the PCN Sports family. That show is none other than the Rip Griffin Show with Brad Chandler. So Rip and Brad talk baseball every week, and their new episodes release every Friday. So if you missed it, Podcast City Network on Facebook just shared all their information. You can actually learn more about their show, The Rip Griffin Show, at www.theripgriffinshow.com. And go give them a like on social media. On Facebook, it's at The Rip Griffin Show. Twitter, at Rip Griffin Show. And if you go on YouTube, you can actually search the whole thing of The Rip Griffin Show. And from there, that's a tongue twister.
It really is. I'm not gonna lie. Even typing.
If you try to say
sometimes.
If you try to say it quickly, but no, we're so happy to have those guys. Whoops! I just moved my camera. There we go.
Yeah, there he is.
We're so happy to have those guys joining the network. We're really excited to bring them on the show in the coming weeks and to really just kind of expand the PCN network to more sports podcasts. So we're so happy to have them. Welcome to the network. Welcome to the PCN family, Rip Griffin Show.
That's right. Make sure to check them out for all things baseball, and you can best believe that we're definitely going to be doing some stuff with them, and you can expect to see them on the show at some point in the very near future, I'm sure. Definitely excited. And, again, welcome to the network. But we do have something very big we got to talk about, and we can't ignore this elephant in the room. It's something we've been prepping for 2 weeks now, and that is none other than Super Bowl week. That's right, Super Bowl 55, which is going to be taking place today, 6:30 p.m. on CBS. Man, this game is going to be monumental for a number of reasons. So many different aspects of this game that people are looking at, including obviously Tom Brady being the ageless frickin' wonder that he is, and going to that's right, another Super Bowl. He's been to more Super Bowls than teams have been to Super Bowls. It's absolutely ridiculous. Man, where do we even start with this thing?
Well, to start earlier this week, we actually had the amazing opportunity to interview editor-in-chief of BucksReport.com, Philip Schwegler. That was done a couple days ago, and I believe that content's going to be out today, if it isn't already out. I think you mentioned it's already out, Chris.
The audio for this is already available across all of our platforms, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, the whole shebang-a-bang. You can get the audio portion available now. The video portion should be out hopefully within the next 24 to 48 hours. But, editing, it's a pain in the ass sometimes. I'm sorry. But, hey, you got the audio version. And it was a great interview, a lot of great talk about the Super Bowl and everything that's going to be happening. And, obviously, the excitement in Tampa, being able to host and have your team in the Super Bowl. A lot of great stuff, man.
Yeah, it was a great interview. And again, I hosted that, and technology wasn't great, which is why the video is being delayed. But at least we got the audio for that. That actually is going to be shared on all of our platforms on social media today, so you can listen in and hear what the Bucs need to do to win the Super Bowl tonight. But it was a lot of fun talking to Philip. We talked a lot about just how the season of the Bucs kind of went. They got off to that hot start, 6-2, but by the bye week in week 13, they were 7-5. There was a lot of question marks about what this team was. Brady actually done? What was going to happen to this team? But since that bye week, it came at the perfect time. They're 7-0 since. They were 4-0 to end the regular season, and they've been rattling off wins to make it to this point. And looking at this game, it's really the matchup that we're looking at. I'm going to look at the Bucs D. I'm not the quarterbacks. Let's take that out because we already know that's going to be a major. It's going to be it's obvious. It's going to be a major headline tonight. But I want to look at the defense because the Chiefs are missing both their starting left and right tackles. Mm-hmm. And you saw what the Bucs did against the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game, and the Packers were hanging their hat on the fact that Aaron Rodgers was not he was basically unsackable. He had the lowest sacks, I believe, in the NFL to that point in the regular season, and the Bucs made an impact. I mean, they disrupted really that offense of the Green Bay Packers. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at a top run defense, top 6 in overall defense for the Bucs. That's what I'm looking at matching up in this game. How are they going to be able to contain Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and that offense?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely crazy when you look at it. And I agree that's a big aspect that I've been looking at is that Kansas City's tackles are out of this game. And that's huge when you talk about the kind of edge rush that Tampa Bay can bring. And it's going to be monumental. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes is really going to have to try and stick in there the best he can to be able to do anything. But, before we dive fully in, though, you got to make sure, though, that you find the Bucs Report and all the great stuff that they do on their social media, as you see now on the screen with the great banners that we make here, at Bucs Report on Facebook, at Bucs Report, at Bucs_Report, and at Phil Schweg _BR, both on Twitter, and, of course, at BucsReport.com. And, I can't wait to do more stuff with them, man. It was really exciting to watch that interview.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was so much fun talking with Phil. We met up with him in this last year, and they got a lot of great stuff going on over there at Bucs Report. So go check them out. BucsReport.com is where you can catch all their content.
Yeah, absolutely. But this game,
we got to talk about we got to talk about our predictions for this game.
Yeah, because
we can't go without doing that.
Oh no, we can't. And you know what's crazy is I've had so many people asking me, Chris, what do you think about this Super Bowl? Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl? How do you think this is going to play out? And it's like, honestly, it's probably one of the tougher matchups I've had to really sit down and think about and break down, just because we look at two offenses that are highly explosive, two defenses that can get the job done. But the big thing that I see is that Tampa has a very slight edge when it comes to defense. And that's the thing that could end up being the difference maker, especially when we have the aforementioned two tackles that are out for Kansas City. That's going to be huge when you have a guy like Ndamukong Suh who can, split him out a little bit wider. Boom, now he's taking advantage of this very green tackle who hasn't, I know on the right side, hasn't started a game all year. So it's interesting when you look at how the dynamics of what this offensive line is going to have to do to be able to try and keep pressure off Patrick Mahomes and try and be able to open up some kind of lanes for this run game with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But my big key that I'm looking at is literally offensive line, defensive line. Can the Tampa Bay defensive line take advantage of that Kansas City offensive line that is now down two of their main starters? That's monumentous. And when you look at the kind of talent that Tampa Bay has across that defensive line, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and it's one thing Phil mentioned as well is that throughout this season they had dealt with some injuries, but a big key and one of his key players that he sees in this game being a major impact is Vita Vea, who's been out most of the year with that foot injury. Mm-hmm. He's coming back, so he's going to clog up the middle along with Ndamukong Suh. But you look at the edge rushers, JPP, and you got Shaq Barrett on the side. You got Devin White roaming around the middle. I mean, their front seven is arguably the best in the NFL outside of LA.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have one of the best front seven in the NFL, and you can see what that young defensive secondary's been able to do when they can generate pressure up front, which is what we've seen over the last 7 games.
Absolutely. And when you really look at it, too, we've already seen a matchup between these two teams earlier this season. Yes, it ended close because it only ended up being a 3-point win, but that game was not close with how it was actually played on the field. Did you actually get to see their first matchup this season?
I did. I watched a good chunk of it. It was quite the shootout. I mean, I think it was like 800 yards passing between the two teams. I know Tampa was over 350 and Pat Mahomes had like 400 and some and change, but I mean it was quite the game, and I think it's going to be a similar type game this time, but I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. But yeah, I think it's also going to be a tight game no matter. And you're talking about the Super Bowl. I mean, you don't see blowouts in the Super Bowl.
Not typically, and that's the thing that you see here. Is
Not
that even
typically.
in their matchup, they had all those yards, but even so, it still ended 27-24, just showing how close that these teams are with one another.
Yep.
Because Tampa's not a team that anybody can sleep on. Because after this loss to Kansas City, they won the rest of their games and ended up going 11-5. So if Tampa can be able to learn from the mistakes that they made early on in that first game, maybe they can rectify and be able to pull ahead of Kansas City. But again, you got to keep in mind that offensive line. That could undo this entire Kansas City offense if they're not able to get good protection for the run game and for Mahomes. So many ways that this could go. Obviously, Tom Brady still chasing his 7th ring in his 10th Super Bowl. I can't even believe we're saying that. That's absolutely insane. You look at other guys that are like, which we'll get to the Hall of Fame inductees here soon, but a lot of those guys, same age as Tom Brady, maybe even a little bit younger. Now you're looking at it and they're like, oh yeah, we've won Super Bowls. Now we're getting inducted. And he's like, oh, sorry, I got to go play in a Super Bowl real quick. Y'all enjoy your honors. I'm still getting it done. So it's just crazy. And you can never count out Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. I mean, the guy gets there for a reason.
Yeah, and even with him throwing 3 picks in that NFC Championship game, you could see what the rest of that offense did. They were still able to score points when they needed to. That defense helped anchor them and keep them in the game. And that's, I think, is going to be a key in this game too. Tom Brady's going to make some mistakes in this game. Let's not try to just say it's all sunshine and rainbows for Tampa Bay. They're going to make mistakes. But the one thing they have to do is Tampa Bay cannot make the mistake that Buffalo did. And this is going to sound crazy. I repeat, do not get up double digits in the first quarter on the Chiefs. This team, for whatever reason, teams go, like you saw what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done over the season, they had to flip a switch and they turned it on throughout the course of the year. The Chiefs are one of those anomalies that literally can turn on the switch in a quarter and they can change the whole game. That's what you really have to pay attention to. So they got to make sure they don't get up too early, too quickly, because then the Chiefs will wake up and go, oh, wait, we got a football game to play? Okay, let's score 27 unanswered points.
I mean, as long as they don't Lamar Jackson it and let Patrick Mahomes go take a poop, they should be okay. The big thing, you just can't take Mahomes out of the game. But looking at the comments, though, and some of you guys that are posting up in there, got to give a shout-out to Jimmy. Says he wants to see how Tampa's secondary does, saying that KC can burn you. They definitely can, but it's definitely, I think, still going to come down to that protection. But another thing that Jimmy said was Tampa didn't have to travel and use their own facilities. I think they'll get off to a strong start based on that. And that is something that, we haven't been able to ever take into account when it comes to the Super Bowl, is the fact that we now have the very first team playing and hosting the Super Bowl. So how much do you think that comes into play here?
With limited fans, I don't think it's making that big of a difference, because no matter what, you're going to still, from the Chiefs' perspective, you're still going to prepare like it's a road game, whether it's in Tampa or not. I mean, and if you're the Bucs, you're trying to emulate a regular week as much as you can.
Of course.
You're not going to just say, hey, guys, go ahead and you stay home for a while. Like, that's not how this – it's the Super Bowl. They're going to be prepared. If it was a full stadium and we had no COVID restrictions, I think it would have a much bigger impact. Mm. But, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. It'll be big for the history books if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win, But other than that, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
I mean, Bucks fans are looking at you right now, just going, because with still having 25,000 fans in the stadium, 7,500, I believe, are going to be vaccinated first responders and frontline workers for COVID. But I had someone actually, I think it was my chiropractor said this one. He's like, my thing about Tom Brady is that obviously he's really good, but I heard they're going to try and take special precaution because, with all the medical workers they're having come in, they're going to go ahead and just post EMTs every 10 yards just in case Tom Brady chokes. And I was just like, oh my God, you really think he could choke in this? He's like, of course he could. Come on, he's lost other Super Bowls before. And I'm like, hey, all right, cool. Yeah, sure, that's cool. But still, it's really cool to see that we're actually going to have at least a half-ish or probably like a third-ish full stadium, right? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's more like a third, yeah, but not even really that. More like a quarter.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
closer to a quarter.
But still, yeah, I mean, because it's almost an 80,000 seat stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in the mid 70s, so I mean, 20,000 is going to have some impact, but again, it's not. I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact because you got to imagine who are people that buy Super Bowl tickets? Are a lot of them home and away? Yeah, some, but there are some people that buy tickets that don't even give a crap about either team. They just want to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's a good point. Because I'm not going to lie, if I could just go to the Super Bowl, I would.
Yeah, absolutely. I would too. It's the experience of being there. So I don't think it's going to have a big deal, but I do think that it's going to play a little bit of a role, just having to have a little bit of that home field advantage, but it's not going to be major.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be super impactful just because of the fact we don't have a full stadium going on, but we both were in that stadium. Let's not forget the XFL Summer Showcase, which you can find in a lot of our older content. And we were able to go in that stadium, stand in the middle of that field, and if 25,000 people, I think you're going to get some noise, but I agree it's nothing like what that stadium can fully hold. So it might not impact as much, but still don't count it out, especially with the hometown fans, I'm sure, trying to snatch up a lot of those tickets because, again, it's the first time we've ever had a team do this. So, we'll see how it works out. But another interesting tidbit.
Just
go ahead.
Just sucks it's the COVID year.
I know. It does suck it's a COVID year, and hopefully it'll get better maybe going into the next season or at least in the coming years. I don't know. I saw a report the other day. It's like, this is going to last for another 7 years at this rate. And it's like, I really hope not. But, hey, whatever happens.
Possible.
It's who knows?
But how many times have we ever seen the team that's hosting the Super Bowl actually play in the Super Bowl? Like we said, this is the first time ever. Mm-hmm. When's the next time we're going to see it? I don't know. Oof. Probably never.
But you know what? It's funny. It's funny that it's Tom Brady always at the basis of these first. Oh, part of the first team to host and play in a Super Bowl. Oh, first team to actually be in an overtime Super Bowl and win. First quarterback now sitting here almost to have 7 rings. And he's going to be, I think, the second quarterback if he does win, to win a Super Bowl with an AFC and NFC team as a quarterback. So, there's just so much around this. But let's not forget the big stat this week. The AFC and NFC are tied at 27 Super Bowls apiece. This is the tiebreaker, which I think is a great segue for who do you think actually takes this one home?
Lot of X factors in this game, which this is going to be a lot of fun to watch as a football fan. Even if you're not a big football fan, a lot of people watch the Super Bowl anyway. But this is probably going to be one of the more exciting Super Bowls that we've seen in a couple of years. And I know the last couple have been pretty good. But I think from an offensive standpoint, we have 2 high-powered offenses that are going to be lighting it up. Looking at the Bucks, they're 6th in pass attempts, 2nd in pass yards, and 2nd in pass touchdowns. And, the Chiefs are, also near the top of a lot of those categories. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I think the X factor, like we both have mentioned, is going to be in the trenches. It's going to be the defensive line of the Bucks. How can they handle the offensive line of the Chiefs? It's more so going to be, I think it's, don't count out the Chiefs defense either. They've created some turnovers. They've caused some pressure. They can do what they got to do too. So that's really what I'm looking at. But I think it's going to be very closely mirrored to how the first game went. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-27 over the Chiefs to become the first team to host and win Super Bowl in their home stadium.
Wow, bold prediction, Cotton. See how it works out for you. But I know I got to try and throw my 2 cents in this as well, and that is one thing you can't count out that Kansas City defense. Tom Brady did not only throw 3 picks in that NFC title game, but threw multiple picks in the game before that as well in the divisional round. So obviously there are turnover issues when it does come to the Bucs sometimes if Tom Brady's not playing up to par, and that could very well happen in this heated game against a pretty staunch defense. So who knows, could go a lot of ways. I think this game will become a war of attrition. I think both teams are going to make a lot of mistakes early, and I don't think we're going to see a lot of scoring even happen until probably the second quarter. But I think it's going to be a slow roll into a very exciting second half that's going to see, I think, a lot of scoring. But I think it's going to end up being whoever has the ball last, and we know what happens when Tom Brady has the ball last. He wins the game, and the Buccaneers are going to win this one 34-31 and are going to do it on a last-second field goal to give Tom Brady Super Bowl number 7, and yeah, he'll have a 70% win clip. Yeah, he's gonna pass Thanos. Thanos ain't even gonna be able to hold anything to him. Wait, does that mean Tom Brady has to get a second Infinity Gauntlet? You know,
he might. I mean, he's the ageless wonder. He might just do it and just get another one. Just fill both hands.
What's funny though is that he actually was asked recently during Super Bowl week. Obviously this week they do all the media relations and all that kind of stuff, where they asked him, well, would you think about playing past 45? And he was like, yeah, definitely. He's like, past 45? Yeah. So it's like, I don't think this dude wants to stop. I think he's going to keep going until he breaks something or just falls over one day.
He's that much of a competitor, and it's a game that he loves. Why not play it until you cannot play it anymore?
Oh, my gosh. Let's get wild real quick. Does Tom Brady play at age 50?
No. I honestly think if Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl this year, there is a possible chance that he could retire this year.
Absolutely. But
being out on top. If they lose, I would not be surprised if Brady comes back next year for the Bucs again.
But if he gets the second Infinity Gauntlet, you got to keep playing to fill it. So, I mean, if he wins, isn't that just him wanting more power and go get more Super Bowls?
I mean, you see what he's been doing. Like we said, second in pass yards, second in pass touchdowns. Dude at 43 is still slinging it like he's 23. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
Why not play another year or two? You know, play till you're 45 if you can.
Yeah, you know, who cares? Do what you want. Be happy. So at the end of the day, though, it's going to be real crazy. Looking at the comments, Jimmy came in and said Tom Brady might surpass the whole Steelers franchise for Super Bowl wins. So it's crazy to think that Steelers, who were like the pinnacle of Super Bowl wins, now might be passed by one player. So George Demoya, thanks for coming up in the chat. Welcome. And he gave his official prediction: the Buccaneers 40-34 in overtime. That's right, George Demoya calling for the second overtime game in Super Bowl history. So, I mean, hey, who knows? It could be that close.
Yeah, JDM, host of Not a Hockey Market podcast here on Podcast City Network. Go check that out if you like talking some hockey. That's your man to go to.
Absolutely.
He's our resident hockey guy.
Yeah, we got to get him back on the show soon. I tell you what, we got to talk some hockey now that football's going to be ended.
Absolutely. Football's going to be done. It's already hockey season. There's a ton of good games that have been going on lately. So, absolutely, we're going to talk some hockey soon.
And George says the reason the Buccaneers win is because the dark side always wins. And, look at the Empire. They did pretty good in Star Wars. So, we'll definitely see how it goes. You know, maybe just, the dark side just relocated from, Foxborough to Tampa Bay. So, whatever.
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay Bradyneers. So, definitely going to be a great game. Definitely make sure to catch it. 6:30 p.m. on CBS tonight. Definitely going to be an exciting game. 14-2 Chiefs and 11-5 Buccaneers. So, man, and then I'll wrap. That's going to wrap the season, and then we'll definitely have to come with a lot more exciting news, which we'll get to in a little bit. But also definitely make sure to still check out the Bucs Report interview that we had with Phil. Definitely a great interview. Audio portions are available now on all platforms, so definitely check it out. But what else should they be checking out right now, Craig?
You absolutely got to be checking out Podcast City Network's merchandise shop. I mean, you can get neck gaiters to protect you from COVID-19. You can get a mug for your morning coffee, or you can get a T-shirt to support your favorite show, like Final Score. No matter what, we've got you covered. You can get the latest apparel and gear for your favorite podcast, or support PCN by visiting podcastcity.net/shop and check out the lineup of everything that we have in the store. And if you want to really show your disdain for the college football playoff and just all the just gritty nastiness that they're just shoving down everybody's throats,
Yes.
that cash cow that it is, you can get your very own Down with CFP shirts also on podcastcity.net/shop. If you get the shirt, you take a selfie and you tag FinalScore, use the hashtag Down with CFP, and you might even see it on this show and our social media.
That's right. You just might boycott the college football playoff. Hashtag Down with CFP, because, man, these gluttonous guys are killing us. So definitely support the cause and check out all the other great stuff on the PCN shop. And we can tell you now, with us adding more shows, eventually there's going to be more new stuff. So definitely make sure to go check it often, because there's going to be a lot of new stuff hitting it very, very soon. But now we got to talk about the rest of the NFL, because while we have the Chiefs and the Bucks that are going to be playing today, or I should say this evening, for the great glory of Super Bowl awesomeness, we still have 30 other teams that are now sitting at home, twiddling their thumbs, wondering what the hell they're going to do to try and get to where the Chiefs and the Bucks are right now. And it's been extremely interesting because moves have already been made, including a massive one, including your franchise quarterback. What is going on, Craig?
Well, this happened last week, and it would have been on last week's show, but, technical issues. So our guy, like the heartbeat of Motown, Matt Stafford, who has unfortunately been through I wouldn't even say highs and lows, more like the medium plateaus and the valleys. Like that's where he's been with the Lions franchise.
The lows in the caverns.
Yes, the lows in the caverns. Yeah, the lows, the valleys, and the caverns. That's where Matt Stafford's been. But longtime Lions QB Matt Stafford has been traded to the LA Rams last Saturday, so a week ago, in kind of a really quick move. There was talks that he could go to some locations. There was some chatter, but then randomly I was out at dinner and you texted me 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and dude, Stafford just got traded. It's like, oh my God, what happened? So of course I had to sit there at dinner trying to figure out what's going on. But the Rams sent 3 draft picks to the Lions for Matt Stafford. They got, for this coming year, 2021, a 3rd-round pick, and then 2 future first-round picks, 2022 and 23, go to the Lions. And now the Lions get in return QB Jared Goff, who's only 26 years old, and he's still 2 years removed from a Super Bowl. But here's why the Lions, in my opinion, traded for Jared Goff. Yes, he's 26. Yes, the head of college personnel is now the GM of the Lions. I understand that. But it's more from the money perspective. His contract has an out prior to 2023, but the Lions can move on from him after this coming year to take a $15 million cap hit versus if he stays on the roster in 2022, it's a $40 million cap hit. So it's basically, what do you want to lose here? But they will actually get to save themselves each year. They're moving forward over $20 million against the cap if they decide to move on from Goff. But for Goff, this is his opportunity to prove that he can be a franchise quarterback, because you cost the Rams draft picks to go up and get you. Now you're costing the Rams draft picks for them to get rid of you. So now it's your opportunity with a brand new franchise in a town that we'll put it this way, we can't compare him to Matt Stafford, even though some people try, and get that argument out the fucking door, because that is completely garbage. There's no comparison. You try to compare that shit with me, and I'm going to down it. I'm going to poke so many holes in it that it's going to be like the fucking Edinburgh or the SS fucking Sault Ste. Marie or whatever the hell that thing was in Michigan.
Man, you're not
that
fired
sunk
up
to the
today.
bottom of the lake. I'm not fired up at all. So, so now from here, basically, if Jared Goff can come in and show the heart, the grit, just show that blue-collar mentality that Matt Stafford did in his time here, you will be embraced by this fan base. I cannot, there's no way around it. But if you come in and you're like, oh, man, my toe hurts today, I don't think I can play, you're going to get booed out and run out of town faster than you can say $15 million. So, I mean, so now the question comes up for the Lions. what do you do? What do you do in the draft? Do you draft somebody at 7 at quarterback? There's talks about they might go and get Justin Fields, or might maybe trade up to get another quarterback. Talking about Zach Wilson's in there. The kid from North Dakota State is being talked. Trey Lance, he's being talked in conversations here. So there's a lot of ways they could go. It just depends on how highly they feel of this quarterback class. Do you think next year's is going to be better? Because you do. If you want to have that quarterback of the future, and you don't think Jared Goff's your guy, you should probably draft a quarterback this year and then let him sit and wait a year or two. But that's not how the NFL works nowadays. So it really depends. If they go and get Justin Fields, I can't support the Lions because I don't think Justin Fields is I'm throwing away the bias that I have because he went to that state. He went to that team in Columbus, okay? Just because he went to that school, I'm taking that out. But look at the past track record of quarterbacks that came out of that school. None of them have been good.
I mean, we're not lying.
I know Justin Fields is kind of like a poor man's, Kyler Murray a little bit here in kind of comparisons, but I don't think that he's that good of a quarterback prospect. So if I'm the Lions, I take him at 7. You're just digging yourself a bigger grave, man. But that's just me. That's just me.
Honestly, with this whole trade, it was very interesting from the onset, as we're seeing a lot of different comments from a lot of people in the chat trying to make sense of it as well. George DeMoy even saying that it's just flat out odd. So it's crazy when you're looking at how this came to be, because honestly, I felt like if the Rams were willing to give up even more first-round draft picks, which let's keep in mind, they haven't had a first-round draft pick since Aaron Donald? So it's crazy when you're looking at this that they could have given this up to try and either move up in the draft or maybe get someone with a little less wear on the tires or something. I mean, you're looking at other teams that have guys that are available, including the Deshaun Watsons of the world. Carson Wentz is even probably still sitting out there. And it's just interesting that you go after Matt Stafford. Nothing against Matt Stafford, but if you're trying to find a stopgap for now to eventually find a better quarterback, because Matt Stafford obviously is not going to be there forever. He's already been in the league so long. There's only so much more he can do. That
right.
It's just odd to me. Like, if you're going to move on from Goff, who you just drafted with a first round draft pick 4 years ago, and now you're already moving on from him, you need to try and find your quarterback in the future. And Matt Stafford's not going to be able to fit that bill. He'll be able to stop get you for now, and honestly, given the talent the LA Rams have, he'll be able to make use of it much better than what he had in Detroit. But I don't know if this is going to propel him to, say, an NFC title game or even a division title. But again, maybe the Rams see something that we don't.
So here's the thing, and I want to talk a little bit here to the people in the chat that are saying this is a head scratcher. Why would they do this? Look at the previous moves that the Rams have been doing over the last year and a half. What are they doing? They're taking the Phoenix Suns approach. If you remember back when they did this, they're selling out for a championship. That's all they care about right now, because Sean McVay knows it is such a short shelf life being an NFL coach. If you don't win a Super Bowl, look at the Eagles. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. He's already gone.
3 years.
Already gone. Mm-hmm. So to me, this is a great move by the Rams. Are they giving up a lot? Absolutely. But if you want to win a Super Bowl, Matt Stafford is still at the end of his prime. He's 34 years old. Mm-hmm. He, in that system with Sean McVay, with those weapons, I've already said this. I will say it again. The Rams are a front runner for next year's NFC Championship. Oof. I am not shy about saying that. The rest of the country is going to see the greatness of Matt Stafford this next year. Mark my words. I'm not kidding.
Oh my gosh, look at you go. It's so cute.
And it's funny because everyone's like, oh yeah, really? Matt Stafford's in this conversation? He's top 10 in yards, top 10 in fourth quarter comebacks. He's actually top 1, 2 in fourth quarter comebacks since he's been in the league. Do you look at those kinds of things because he's had terrible teams with him?
Of course.
The rest of the country doesn't know about Matt Stafford because he's in fucking Detroit. Wait till he goes to LA.
Go to Detroit.
Basically, yes. It used to be Cleveland, now it's Detroit. So, but no, it's like if the rest of the country is going to see. You put Matt Stafford with weapons, with a solid defense, they've got a lot of cap issues they got to worry about, and I understand that.
Yes.
But that's why they're selling out now, because they know that window is closing very soon.
That's true, and you got to look at it already, the turnover they've had within their defense since they went to the Super Bowl, that they don't know if they're going to be able to keep that sustained. You're not going to be able to pay all those guys here in the next few years and be able to keep a team unless you want to go so ridiculously over the cap that I don't even want to know what the luxury tax look like on that. Not even going to go down that road. But either way, there's no way they're going to be able to keep this together. So, yes, I agree. The window is now. If they're going to do it, it has to be now. And nothing against Stafford. My only issue is the fact that you have to look at the rest of the division. Seattle is always a contender for that divisional title. The 49ers tend to crop up out of nowhere sometimes and pull games away from teams. And then Arizona's been out there developing with Kyler Murray now, and they're finding some really great
That's
success.
A scary team.
Exactly. So when you have to play all those twice a year, I just don't know how well the Rams are going to be able to fare. The big thing they're going to have to really rely on is that defense, like they do every year, it seems like now, to be able to make sure they stay in the game, because I don't know if they're going to have that consistency on offense. But who knows? Matt Stafford, with actual weapons after getting out of the black hole known as Detroit, might be able to actually find a fresh start and be able to make something happen. Kind of like how Phillip Rivers did in Indy.
Yeah, if you've watched any games with Jared Goff at quarterback and you watch any games with Matt Stafford at quarterback, the problem between those two are literally night and day. Mm-hmm. If you watch games with Jared Goff, he just makes he got it to a Super Bowl, but how many times did he almost give away those games getting to the Super Bowl because of terrible decisions he's made? Exactly. Now, Matt Stafford on the other side, he literally just had to force balls downfield, and I saw the padding stats comment in there. Because he had no defense, and he literally had to throw the ball. Their rush offense, the Lions' rush offense with Matt Stafford there, has been at the bottom 5 of the league almost every single year. He's had 2 1,000-yard rushers in his entire career behind him.
Oh, yeah.
And he's had coaches that don't know how to coach him. Caldwell was the only guy that actually knew how to utilize that offense with those kind of weapons that they had, but they just didn't have the defense to back it up. So now when you go with Sean McVay, I'm just so excited to see the possibility between these two. The great mind of Sean McVay, the skill set of Matt Stafford. He was making the sidearm throws look cool before Pat Mahomes did it himself.
You ain't lying. Matt Stafford was the first one I saw do it, and then I tried to emulate it, and it really hurt. I'm not going to lie. That really did hurt.
And I've got my Matt Stafford Rams jersey on the way already, by the way.
Oh, my God. Of course you do. You do.
There's not many guys that I will, when they leave a team, that's why I like doing custom jerseys, because guys, they won't leave. You have my Calvin Johnson jersey and stuff like that. But I mean, Stafford's one of those few guys that I would buy a jersey. Brady's another one. I would buy his jersey when he left somewhere else. There's few guys that I would do that for.
I can tell you, I'm definitely not buying a Wentz jersey when he goes on to wherever he goes, because screw that guy.
The Bears?
The Bears. Or the Colts. Who knows?
I would love it. Please, 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 please send Carson Wentz to the Bears.
Why? So you can sit behind Nick Foles there too? Oh.
Yeah.
Man, look at me throwing
the Lions might actually win a couple games then.
Ouch. But you know what? There's another quarterback dealing with a lot of issues right now, and that's one Deshaun Watson, who obviously has not been very quiet about wanting out of Houston. But now this has devolved into a insane situation where Houston doesn't want to budge, Deshaun doesn't want to budge, but Watson's already requested officially a trade. Man, this is just getting messier and messier. Now there's other players that are saying, do I want out of Houston? So what do you make of this mess, man?
I feel so bad for Houston Texans fans. Legit. Yeah. They are getting to the point their front office are making Detroit Lions-esque moves here. They're getting guys you go and hire David Culley as head coach, who's one of the oldest new head coaches in the NFL history. He was not in any conversation for head coaching. He was the Ravens passing game coordinator, now offensive coordinator. He wasn't even in talks for offensive coordinator jobs. This job was literally pulled out of left field. It's like when the Lions went and got Rod Marinelli as their head coach. It's like, who? That's who they got. So from here, like this, I feel so bad for him. And J.J. Watt's another guy that we're kind of talking about. He wants out of Houston now. I feel bad for him because he's poured his heart and soul into Houston, and they love him. They embrace him. But he's been very vocal over the last year or two about not wanting to basically suck anymore.
I mean, who does? At the end of the day, you're not going to want to, have to suck, because this year they're looking to be a team that was going to be a contender. And what they do out the gate, they start just getting I don't want to say destroyed because they did hang in games, but when you lose, was it 4 or 5 straight games to start the season? That is not what you were looking for to do. And now you're looking at guys like J.J. Watt who now won out. You're starting to lose leaders on this team. And the big thing is, though, is that Deshaun Watson said that the hiring of the head coach wasn't going to impact his decision at all. My thing was I called BS because I wanted to see if they were going to go and hire the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs and bring Eric over, but they didn't. And I think Deshaun Watson was waiting to see if they were actually going to do that, because if they would have, I think he would have played ball. And I think he would be like, you know what? I'll give it one more year. Let's see what we can do, and let's make it happen. But they didn't because Houston didn't want him involved in the process.
That would have been a great hire. Eric Bieniemy, I know teams are wanting to get their guys and get moving, but Eric Bieniemy is going to get a head coaching job at some point. Just like, in my opinion, I said this over the last year. Byron Leftwich, who is the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, I think he's one of the next African American coordinators that is going to get a head coaching job.
Absolutely.
Now, Eric Bieniemy should be a head coach somewhere, but that was a very big point for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. He
wants to go somewhere where he has an African American head coach, or at least considers it, and he doesn't want to be in a terrible situation like Houston. And that's really going to be tough because he has a no trade clause. So the Houston can't just go, all right, we're going to ship you off to wherever.
Right.
And he can go. He can just go. Nope, I don't want to go there. So he's thrown out his teams that he wants to go to.
Which are interesting.
One of them's the Jets. That really surprises me because the Jets are in no position. I mean, they have some hope now because you got Saleh and you actually have people that actually know hopefully what they're. People know what they're doing.
Well, that you got to look at the fact too that the news just broke today. I don't know if you saw it this morning, where the Jets are fielding trade calls from multiple teams about Sam Darnold and possibly moving Sam Darnold. So if that were to happen, that'd be a very interesting turn of events. And see, maybe Sam Darnold head to Houston, Deshaun Watson head to New York. I mean, it maybe could happen, but they have a defensive-minded coach, so I don't know.
Well, I think that would be a good spot for him because, what he can do with little to no weapons in Houston.
Yeah.
But having, going to the Jets, they're going to have to focus a lot of their draft picks then on the, on the offensive side because that's really what you're going to have to do. If you go get him, Deshaun Watson, you're going to have to build out that offense. But a couple of destinations that he's talked about, Miami's another one. Miami's got a lot of possibilities here. And how ironic and funny would it be? The Houston Texans traded Tunzel, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got Tunzel. So how ironic would it be that the Houston Texans trade Deshaun Watson to Miami to get their own draft picks back? How funny would that be? That would just be the biggest slap in the face, which is why I think Houston wouldn't want to play ball with Miami. But it would be really hilarious to see that Miami goes, yeah, we're going to give you these picks. And then Houston goes back and they go, wait a second. These are our old picks. Surprise!
Oh, my God. I could see that all day happening, though, because that's a very Houston thing to do. Even like what George is saying right now, it all started with getting rid of Hopkins. I don't know how or why you do that. And that's all it's been is questionable move after questionable move after questionable move. So, what do you expect? But
that was Bill O'Brien, and that was Bill O'Brien. He literally had an ego, and Hopkins wasn't the guy that he thought could be on his team, even though he was extremely talented. So he just trades him. It's like, again, very Lions-esque that they would do that. That's a Matt Patricia move. I'm going to trade this guy because I don't like him.
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
That's very Matt
Get
Patricia.
the fuck out of here.
You ain't
so,
lying, man.
I mean, Yeah, get the fuck out of here. So, I mean, there's a couple other teams that could – I've heard the 49ers are kind of a team that's up there as well. They got a lot of pieces that they can trade away. They've got a lot of cap space that they could pick up Deshaun Watson's contract. But really out of those, like, I really don't see any teams outside of those three being destinations for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, same. I don't see it going pretty much beyond there just because I don't know if a lot of teams are going to be able to even take on that contract, let alone the personality aspect. Because I'm sure there's people worrying now that if Deshaun Watson moves on to another team and things just don't go exactly how he wants, that this may become another issue again. And that's something you're kind of seeing more indicative of now. And I do believe that players should be able to stick up for themselves. But at the same token, you are getting paid stupid amounts of money to play a game. So, you know, it kind of is what it is. I'd love to get paid, millions of dollars to go just play some football.
Yeah, players nowadays, yeah, it's fine. You can request a trade, do it behind closed doors, whatever you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just, not sign an extension like you did last year. Why? If you knew that you might want to get out of Houston, why do you take all that money from them?
Well, I think it really came down to the fact that I think he was trying to work with the franchise, but when the franchise didn't include him on the GM search or on the head coach search, I think that really told Deshaun Watson how they felt about him. And I think he took it personally. Maybe got a little extra butthurt than he needed to be, but, I can understand to a lot of extent that if you want to be part of a franchise and help guide this franchise, you obviously want to try and be a part of the process to help better yourself as well as the team. So,
yeah, and I know to him, he's talking about sitting out if he's not traded. That's not a smart idea for him. You're losing out on a lot of money. But, hey, you got all that guaranteed money when you sign your contract, so if you're comfortable with that, hey, man, you do you. That's cool.
yeah.
I don't think sitting out is the proper move because that's very selfish, childish of him to do so. You still play out your contract until they trade you. But, if you don't show up to OTAs, don't show up to training camp, you can do those things, but don't sit out in the regular season. Like, that's cheating your fans of your brand and cheating the fans of your team.
Absolutely.
That's cheating everybody. It's very selfish to do that. I understand him wanting to get out, and I completely get it. But, work something out. Do the best you can, and I think he's trying. It's just Houston doesn't want to play ball, and that makes it very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So, final word on Deshaun Watson. Does he get moved, or does he end up in Houston this upcoming season?
He gets traded. Especially with the news now about Sam Darnold potentially being on the market. I would not be surprised if within the next week or two, sometime before the draft, he probably could be a Jet. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that. I think he's either going to be a Jet or a Dolphin before the draft.
Yeah, I definitely can see that.
I could be wrong, but I think those are the two big destinations that he wants to go to. They also have the two most equipped teams to make a trade with Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's either a Jet or a Dolphin before the draft.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he'll end up in one of those two destinations just because it makes the most logical sense when you are looking at the capital that's going to have to be given up for him. And obviously we don't want to see a guy like that sitting on the sideline for a season. That would just be I think, a total shot in the face to the league, honestly. But
absolutely. Wait, I would love to see Deshaun Watson. I would love to see him on the Dolphins. Trade. I know, they were like, well, they just traded for Tua. Tua would be in the package to go back to Houston.
Yeah, he would. It'd be
Tua. I would love to see the combination of Miami's defense, Deshaun Watson, and Brian Flores, and maybe draft some pieces on that offense for the Dolphins. I would love to see that combination play out in the AFC East, where you have no Tom Brady in Tampa, in the Patriots anymore. All you've really got to deal with is the Bills.
Yeah, Josh Allen. So I think it could be very good, and we'll definitely see how that works out. But we got to go from one disgruntled quarterback to another, and this one that has been heating up, especially over the last 24 to 48 hours, and that is the drama with the Eagles and Carson Wentz, because trade talks are heating up, phones are ringing off the hook, and the Eagles, while saying that they'd love to bring back Carson Wentz, are seriously fielding calls. But they've recently, especially in the last 24 hours, released a lot of information on what they're looking for, what their end game is a little bit. And the big thing is that they are looking for a Matt Stafford package for Carson Wentz, because let's not forget when Carson Wentz was in his prime, dude went 11-3 before, busting out his ACL, but since then has not looked good. But the big thing I see too is that a lot of Nick Sirianni, the new head coach and his staff have been saying they feel like they could rehab and bring back Wentz to be a Pro Bowl form style quarterback. But my issue is that there's too much divide. The issues between the team and Wentz are too big. He's not good at making friends in the locker room, per multiple reports, and it's just been, it's just been a shit show. It's really been really bad ever since the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So, man, what are your, I don't know how you dare to ask, what are your thoughts on this?
Time reveals everything. Time reveals everything. Carson Wentz, when he came in, everyone was so high, and I mean, so high on him, and he's very talented, absolutely. Yes, injuries have hurt him. He's super talented, but we've seen the reports of, how he is in the locker room, and clearly how he's acted this year. Again, very childish, very selfish. But the most hilarious thing to me is the Eagles want a Matt Stafford package for a guy that is not on Matt Stafford's level. So to me, I don't think they're going to get as much back as they wanted. It just depends on now who are you going, because this is a similar situation. I could see Carson Wentz sitting out and choosing not to play, because clearly he's done it already. Chosen not to be prepared, not to even suit up. Like, it just, we've seen it happen out of him. His character is starting to show. So the teams that have been touching base with the Eagles, the Bears and the Colts are the two ones, and some other unnamed teams, they say, because of course there's unnamed sources all the time now. Anybody and their mother can say their source, like, oh yeah, I talked to a hobo on the street and he said that this team is going to look at it like, oh, but he's my unnamed source. So like that gets thrown around all the time. I think the best destination for him is the Colts because he has a relationship with Frank Reich. They do have a decent amount of cap space this coming year that they can take on his contract. It's going to be interesting though. I really only see one destination, maybe two, and I think Colts and Bears are those two teams. I really only see one though. I think the Colts are the best option for him. It just depends on how much the Colts know and other teams know that Wentz wants to get out. Yeah. They know he wants to get out, just like with Stafford. But I don't think teams are going to give up 3 draft picks for Wentz. I think you're going to get like a 4th or 5th this year, and maybe like a 2nd or 3rd next year, and that's about it.
I don't know.
I don't see Carson Wentz being worth a 1st-round pick in this year, next year, or the year after.
Yeah, but
I don't see it.
For him to get moved, someone's going to end up having to give one up, and there are teams that do have multiple 1st-rounders. So even teams that we've even stated, even with the Deshaun Watson trade, could be players in this. I would namely look at the Jets. But the thing with this is that I think the Colts are going to end up being the winner just because of what we had mentioned earlier, the connection with Frank Reich. That makes all the difference in the world, I think, to Carson Wentz. And you're looking at a team that just made a playoff run with a quarterback that just got literally plugged in Phillip Rivers, who is now retired. So obviously there's no kind of drama, no kind of quarterback craziness. If Carson Wentz comes in, he's going to be the starter. And you're going to do it with a guy that you had your most success in the NFL with during your time there with Philadelphia that you're not going to be able to reconnect with now in Indianapolis. Now you look at all the weapons they have. You look at the defense they have. I mean, hell, even look at the kicker they have. Indy is set up to be able to make a playoff run. The one thing that they've been missing since, in my opinion, the Peyton Manning days is a true starting quarterback that can get the job done. And if Frank Reich can rehab, and I use that term very loosely with Carson Wentz, rehab his play to be able to step in and be the guy in Indy, I mean, sky's the limit. However, that's thinking very optimistically about Carson Wentz and the fact that he could very well go into that locker room and cause the same exact issues that he had in Philadelphia and might be good for a season or two and then just fall completely off yet again. And we're going to be sitting here 3 or 4 seasons from now talking about the same damn thing because Carson Wentz doesn't know how to control himself and conduct himself professionally. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think other teams that have a lot of draft picks that you mentioned are teams that are not going to be very well suited to have Carson Wentz on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
So if a team does give up a first-round pick, I think it's going to be one of those teams that are not well suited for Carson Wentz. And this is where Indy, I think, could lose out on Wentz if they really, really want him. If I'm the Colts, I am not offering any first-round picks for Carson Wentz at all, ever. Not because I don't think he's worth it, but because of all the factors that you just mentioned. You know the connection. We all know the connection. We know that he's good with Frank Reich. We know that they're suited. They don't have a quarterback. This makes too much sense for him not to go to Indy.
Mm-hmm.
But Indy can use that in their favor. And they can say, well, this is the place he wants to go. We all know that. And, you need some draft picks. We're going to give you a 4th this year and a 2nd next year. Take it or leave it.
Mm.
And if they don't want it, that's what I would do if I'm the Colts, because I know he wants out. I know they want to get rid of him, and we know this is the best option for him. I'm going to keep my first-round draft picks. Take it or leave it.
Well, the one thing I look at with this, especially when it comes to Carson Wentz, is I'm pretty sure there isn't any kind of a no-trade clause in his contract. So,
correct.
The one thing that the Eagles can say to Indy, too, is, okay, cool, well, there's other teams that have called, too, so we'll go work a deal out with them. Because the one thing Indy can't do is be able to sleep on a quarterback or miss out on a quarterback, because at that point, the only thing you have is Jacoby Brissett. And as we saw in the 2019 season, Jacoby Brissett is not going to be the guy to get you to the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl. So Indy needs a quarterback.
That's true. That's true. And guess what? If depending on how you feel, people have strong feelings about a lot of quarterbacks. Jimmy G is available. Sam Darnold's now available. I think Sam Darnold wouldn't be a bad idea, wouldn't be a bad fit in Indy. I still think he could be I still think he could be a productive quarterback. You also got that guy named Deshaun Watson still out there that he got to get rid of. I'm just saying,
Deshaun
those
Watson
are options.
ever ended up in Indy somehow. I don't think it'll happen just because of the AFC South connection, but
Deshaun
agree. Watson
I
was
agree.
in Indy. Oh my God.
But I'm saying there's other if you are Indy, the things that you're selling to the Eagles, if you want Wentz, we will take his contract, which is already a big, big help for the Eagles, who are very, strapped in that department.
And still going to have to deal with dead money when he leaves.
Right, but they will say, hey, we'll take the contract. We're going to give you 2 draft picks. None of them will be first rounds, and all these other things laid out. Yeah, we know you got other suitors, but this is your best one. You know it.
I mean, we'll see how it goes, and that's the big thing is that there's so many ways this could go because so many teams apparently have contacted the Eagles, which the Eagles are saying they want to try and keep Wentz if they could. They'd be happy to bring him back, but they're still answering the phone. So nothing can be made official, though, until the new league year starts on March 17th either way, though. So, you got to look at that.
And they're smart. They're smart. I mean, yeah, you would field calls for just about anybody unless they're deemed untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
You'd still field calls even if you want to keep somebody.
Yeah, but how public do you get with those kind of things? You know what I mean? Because the thing is that you never want to try and have a player feel like, they're not, especially if they've done things for you. In the case of which a lot of people want to say, oh, Carson Wentz, it wasn't Carson Wentz, it was Nick Foles. Let's not forget, Carson Wentz went 11-3 during their Super Bowl run. He doesn't win those 11 games. You probably don't even see the Eagles in the playoffs, let alone in the Super Bowl. So you still got to give the man his due. But you always, I feel, hurt confidence with players in your franchise when you start talking that kind of way, especially if you're, quote unquote, committed to them. So I think it's always a slippery slope no matter how you look at it. But with a 4-year, $128 million contract left, I know Philly is just going to be like, hey, we all this money, will anybody please come take him? Especially seeing how once the new league year starts, once they hit day 3 of that league year, Carson Wentz is due $10 million just for a roster bonus. So they're definitely going to try and get something done as soon as possible. So, I mean,
yeah, I would not be surprised if by the time that March 19th date rolls around, Carson Wentz is in a different uniform.
Absolutely. And I think we already know what our feelings are on this. I feel he's gonna end up in Indy no matter what. It just makes the most sense. I think you feel about the same way. So maybe we'll see him in a Colts jersey next year. Maybe it'd be a good move. I hope he kind of goes there and just sucks, but that's just me,
Oh, no, not you. Not the biggest Carson Wentz backer in the last 2 years on this show.
So do I get to be that guy who goes and burns my jersey now? Like, do I get to do that now? I don't know what that's like.
Can I witness? Can we do this live? Can we do this live?
Oh, man, we should.
I want to see this.
We should do it. I mean,
actually, I don't.
Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, let's do it. I mean, if you want a new one, I got somebody. I got somebody that gets you some jerseys. So
yeah, I need a good Jalen Hurts jersey now because it hurts so good to try and get back to winning.
Hey, oh man, you guys got a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. But we'll see how it works out. But, in some other NFL offseason news that we have going on around the league, we can't forget about something that just happened just last night that we've honestly been waiting all season for, and that's the NFL awards. That's right. They had the NFL honors last night, naming all of the winners of all the yearly awards, including MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, the whole shebang and bang. And it was a very interesting night and a lot of close voting that had happened. But your MVP for the 2020 COVID season was none other than Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Definitely hats off to Aaron Rodgers and a great season. Sorry it didn't work out and you weren't able to capitalize on Tom Brady's 3 interceptions. But hey, you got an MVP award.
Yeah, it's funny. He's three-time MVP now, and he it's one of those, like, it's very salty because you do like to get those MVP awards, but you really would want to be playing in tonight's game. Like, you really want to be playing in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's got to be. It's like a backhand at this point if you're an MVP and you're not in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but
pretty much. Oh man, but you know what? There are a lot of other players who did a lot of great things this year, including our Offensive Player of the Year, Derrick Henry, running back for the Tennessee Titans. That dude literally was just a train with legs, and it was amazing to watch him run. And then Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald, defensive tackle for the Rams, who narrowly beat out TJ Watt for this honor of Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hats off to both of them. They both had great seasons.
TJ's had a hell of a year. But yeah, Aaron Donald, he's the best. I think he's the best defensive lineman in the game. But from a stat standpoint, I think TJ Watt probably deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we start looking at our Rookie of the Year awards, which honestly, no surprise to me. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Justin Herbert, quarterback for the Chargers. The dude set all kinds of rookie records. I mean, you can't knock everything that he brings to the Chargers right now.
Yeah, Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Years, no surprises to us here. Herbert at QB for the Chargers, and Chase Young, obviously the very talented defensive end for Washington. No surprises on those.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. And Coach of the Year, though, we had very, very differing opinions about this, but it ended up being Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, hey, when you take the Browns back to the playoffs for the first time in ages and actually win a playoff game, I mean, I guess that gets you Coach of the Year, right?
Yeah, I will preface this by saying neither one of us picked correctly, but who was your pick again?
We're not going to talk about that. So the comeback player.
Who was your pick again of that very overrated team in the AFC North, not named the Cleveland Browns?
Oh my goodness, you're killing me.
So yeah,
but
I mean, so very, very well deserved for Kevin Stefanski, and I think getting that playoff berth and victory really kind of pushed him over the top. Had the Dolphins made the playoffs, I think Brian Flores probably would have been a very, very narrow. Maybe even victory, because I've been high on that train all year.
Oh, we know.
Of Brian Flores being Coach of the Year. I know, very, very, very high on that. But very well deserved for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns. They've had a great year. I know it didn't end the way they wanted it to, but the future is bright in Cleveland. Haven't heard that said in a long time.
Absolutely. And the most non-surprising award this year, and if it would have went to anybody else, it definitely probably would have ended in a riot. But comeback player of the year was none other than quarterback Alex Smith of the Washington football team / club. And honestly, hats off. I'm just so happy for Alex Smith to not only be able to come back, be able to play. He took over the starting job and even was able to help push his team into the playoffs. So hats off. I mean, he didn't even get to play in the playoff game, but hey, it is what it is. Hats off to Alex Smith, man. It's great to see you literally go from near death to being back as a starting NFL quarterback. So hats off to you, sir. And we got to do it. So definitely well deserved.
Yeah, phenomenal feat of human ability and in this. I mean, he might Whether he plays again after this season, we don't really know. I mean, there was a little bit of question about that going into the playoff game. But hey, this is, yeah, like you said, if anybody else other than Alex Smith got this award, there would have been some hell to pay for the NFL. So
absolutely,
very, very smart. But with those awards and the Super Bowl coming up tonight, that means that the offseason is right around the corner for the entire league. And that means one thing. The NFL draft is right around the corner, and we are super excited to kind of bring you some of those the coverage for that and talking about different prospects. And we're excited. We're reaching out to some people to come on the show soon about talking the NFL draft and some prospects and maybe do some mock drafts. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's been a lot of fun. We've done them in the past. We've had a lot of fun doing live streams during the draft. So it's going to be fun. We've got some fun stuff planned for this year.
Absolutely. Going to be a lot of great and fun stuff, just like all the great platforms we're on that, hey, we're on just about everything nowadays. So definitely make sure to check out all the great content that we have on all of our platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Player FM, Bullhorn, and Castbox. That's right. We're on even more stuff now. And as well, our video portions on YouTube. All you have to do is go on any of those platforms, search for FinalScore, one word, and check out all the great stuff we have there. Or you can go directly to our hub at podcastcity.net/FinalScore and check out absolutely everything that we have to offer, including our sports blog, as well as all the other great stuff that we offer with our content, interviews, a lot of great stuff. Check it out. Final Score, always awesome. But now we got to talk about something that I don't think we've even talked about for a little bit now, and that is the NBA, because the NBA season has gotten underway, and we are starting to see some movers and shakers, even a crazy double overtime game last night won by the Lakers. It really sucked because I had to stay up to wait for that score just to put it in the ticker. And the Lakers could have just won it in regulation. But at the end of the day, hey, you got to do what you got to do for the great fans. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of big movers and shakers, and even a huge career game by one of our own local players. So it's been a crazy season, man. But where do you want to kick this thing off? I got standings.
Man, well, I mean, really. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the standings. I mean, take a look at the East real quick. I mean, not going to dive in too deep, but looking at how that East is starting to play out. I mean, you got Philadelphia's at 17-7, kind of holding up that first spot. Milwaukee, based on the year they had last year, they're not doing as well, really. I mean, they're a game and a half back. Boston's almost 500, sitting in third place, to kind of show you where the Eastern Conference is at. Brooklyn still trying to figure out everything. They're 14-11, but they got that big three now that they absolutely desired, and Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Durant. And then from there, like Atlanta and New York, the Knicks sitting at the 7th spot at 11-13. Shout out to our guy Chris LeBron at Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network. I mean, the Knicks are technically right now in the playoffs. Like that
blows my mind.
That's crazy. Yeah. But I mean, kind of going down to really focusing on our teams here, Orlando and Miami. Down near the bottom of the Eastern Conference, lots of injuries on both of those teams. Orlando's at 9-15, Miami's at 8-14, and of course, my Pistons are 5-18 at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But we're moving on from that. But I mean, really, what we're looking at here is, what's going on? What's wrong with the Magic and the Heat this year?
I can tell you right now, with the Magic, it's been more injuries than anything. You still have Jonathan Isaac out, who's still going to be out for the rest of the season, but his rehab is progressing nicely. But that was a huge blow, as well as losing Markelle Fultz, who's going to be out for out for the season because of a knee injury.
Yeah.
So they're just getting plagued by the injury bug, and Vucevic can only do so much to keep carrying this team, even having a utterly huge career night against the Chicago Bulls within the past week, where he ended up with 43 points, 19 rebounds, and 4 assists, 43 points being a literal career high for him on 17 of 29 field goal shooting. So Vuce has been doing everything he can, but he's the team right now. And until they're able to get guys healthy and be able to start getting some chemistry, they're not going to be able to do much of anything, I feel like, sadly. But don't lose hope, Magic fans, because eventually, once the guys get healthy and can stay healthy, I think this team could actually make a run and maybe, actually do something in the playoffs for once.
Well, really what they've been doing, the Magic have been in that. I attribute this to the spot that the Pistons were in after they made their run in the Eastern Conference Finals 6 straight years. They really just they tried to keep the same pieces and just kind of plug and play, and it's not working. But they're stuck in no man's land. They're making the playoffs at 7 and 8, but they're not bad enough that they get a good draft pick, and they're not making good moves in free agency. And they were really stand pat this year. And one of the big question marks about this team from last year to this year, again, was offensive scoring. And the first couple games, they looked like maybe they turned the corner and did some stuff, but injuries rear their head. They're 28th in the league in points scored. If you're almost dead last in the league in offense again, you're not going to win many games. And their defense has suffered from last year. Last year they were top 10, top 5 in defense. This year they're 18 right now as it stands today. So, I mean, if your defense is slacking and your offense is still garbage, there's not much you can do there. Yes, they have a lot of promising. Cole Anthony is looking like he's going to be a great point guard of the future for the Magic. I'm so happy that he's doing well. I love watching him play. But really, when you're still relying on Vucevic, who's not getting any younger, and he's in his prime right now, he's kind of getting it wasted. Aaron Gordon's not the guy. I'm sorry. He hasn't been the guy for a couple of years.
He's so
I've said this. I've said this from the highest platform, which I'm not very tall, so that's not very high.
Oh,
but I've said that from the highest platform I can, that Aaron Gordon's not the guy. Fournier's not the guy either. Like, those guys need to go, or even trade all three of them and trade Vucevic to get some draft picks. You're going to have to tank for a year or two to get a decent draft pick and start all over again. You've got a good core in Jonathan Isaac and Cole Anthony. Jonathan Isaac when he's healthy, and Cole Anthony. Terrence Ross is good off the bench, but he's also wildly inconsistent. There's a lot of issues here for the Magic, but they're under the surface, and they're eventually going to creep their way up to the top, which we've seen this year. Magic are 3-7 in their last 10 games.
3-7.
Not good.
How about this? How about they've only won 3 games in their last 16 contests? It's absolutely deplorable what we're seeing. My thing is, I don't see them getting rid of Vuce because that's the only bright spot they have. He's the leader of that locker room and this team, and they just signed him to a fat contract last offseason. So I don't see that happening. However, the rest of everything outside of basically Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac, I think you can jettison because a lot of it is either wildly inconsistent or not producing whatsoever. So honestly, what are we doing here? Aaron Gordon, I absolutely agree. I used to be high on Aaron Gordon. I thought, you know what, maybe he can develop, and he started showing signs, and then he would do what he always does. He gets about a quarter or a third of the way into the season and just crashes. And it's incensing because I want to like the guy. I want to support him as a player, but he keeps just failing. And honestly, we should have traded him 2, maybe even 3 years ago. But sadly,
he should have been gone a couple years ago.
Absolutely. And it's
that
crazy.
Monster contract.
Yeah, and now they're having to pay for that instead of using that money to be able to get themselves some real players. And I understand Orlando is considered a small market, quote unquote, but when you're looking at Orlando and everything, even the state of Florida has to offer, I don't understand how Orlando's not able to attract more. Yeah, I get the whole Disney World thing, but hey, Orlando is a central place. It's top 20 TV market. It has a huge population and a lot of stuff to do. You can't tell me that players don't want to come to Orlando, especially when you don't have to pay a state income tax. But still, we're sitting here with garbage players outside of Vuce, and we can't do anything. We haven't been good since the Dwight Howard days, and that hurts me even to say. So it's ridiculous to see that Orlando Brass can't get it going, and I'm honestly chalking it up to ownership at this point, but now I'm just going off on tangents because Magic has me pissed off.
I mean, that's been the question mark about this franchise for a number of years is that ownership, and how much are they willing to put forward to put a winning product on the floor. And that's really where we're at right now. And you look at what they're at this year, the Magic have 9 wins on the season. All 9 of those wins, none of them are playoff teams. None of them. And even, yes, I know they beat Miami to open the season. Miami's worse than the Magic right now. Washington, one of the worst teams in the league. They've won 2 games against them. Oklahoma City, 2 games against Cleveland. And then they lost a ton of games, and then they beat Charlotte, Minnesota, and Chicago. Not very good team.
That's what I'm saying. You start out 4-0 on the season. First time they've ever done that in franchise history, and then since then have only won 5 games. It's absolutely deplorable what we're seeing out of this team right now. And I hate to say, I don't think it's going to get much better. I really don't.
No, it's not. And like I said, it's not going to get better until you blow up this entire core that they've been building. You got to keep the young guys that you think are promising. I think when they drafted Isaac, that was a big reach for them. Because they literally were drafting on raw, just potential.
Yeah.
And clearly his potential is he's not living up to that potential. So do you move on from him at some point? You have to make those hard decisions. And the Magic are just not willing to do that, which is why they are where they are.
Absolutely. But when you're looking at the rest of the field, though, I know we touched on the East a little bit. I did want to jump over to the West because there's something interesting right now. A lot of people probably aren't realizing looking at the top of the standings. The Utah Jazz are number 1 in the West. When did that happen?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Utah actually showing that they are a good team. And we had said this, too, I think, in our preseason breakdown of the NBA this year was that Utah could be a team that, if they get the right things going, they could be a team that could seriously contend. And now look at them leading the entire Western Division, the loaded Western Division. So absolutely crazy to see. Lakers right there at number 2, though, a half game back. So might be short.
Yeah, Utah Jazz are number 3 in overall defense, number 8 in overall offense. So, I mean, looking at that, and you got Donovan Mitchell averaging 23 a game. He's really been turning it on over the last couple of years. Having a guy, Jordan Clarkson, that combination of Clarkson and Conley is really, really helped that team. And you know what you're going to get on the defensive end from the Utah Jazz? It's really that offense, and they've been able to turn it on. They've been able to pick it up, and we're starting to see the fruits of that labor for Utah.
Absolutely. And as we start looking down the order of what's going on in the West, though, behind the Lakers, you got the Clippers, who have been resurging since the early season kind of funk that they were in, followed by the Phoenix Suns. Man, look at when's the last time we said the Phoenix Suns were in the top 4 in the NBA in the West? Like, absolutely crazy to see them now 12-9, starting to make it happen. Currently 5-5 in their last 10, though. But then you got the Spurs, who've also been resurging, and then you got the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, which were not too surprising, but the Golden State Warriors are rounding out the top 8 in the West right now, and it's been so dismal for Golden State these past couple of years just because of horrible, horrible injuries and inconsistency to the max. But now they're sitting at 8, but they're 12-11. Do you think this stays sustained?
Not over the long term, but having Steph Curry coming back really helps, and they're number 9 in offensive scoring. Their defense is bottom half of the league, so they're just trying to outscore people at this point. You really are. You're trying to just outscore, and finally seeing guys come around. Kelly Oubre Jr. Finally, he had a career high earlier this week. Seeing those kind of guys turn it around a little bit. They're really just trying to find their footing until they can hopefully get Klay Thompson back. Hopefully, all these injuries in succession don't really hurt. Don't really hurt his ability to play. But that team has needed a lot of things to go their way, and it's starting to go their way. So you're starting to see that. And the Phoenix Suns, just want to touch on them real quick. That is something that we looked at in the preview show for the NBA, is a team to watch out for in the West to get better with that trade of Chris Paul coming into Phoenix. And you look at them, their offense, 22 in the league, but their defense is number 4. That's really the thing you want to look at. They finally, over the last year, they're putting in the right coaching staff. They're putting in the right pieces around this young nucleus led by Devin Booker. You're finally starting to see some positive things come out of the Phoenix Suns organization.
Absolutely. I have to agree. And honestly, let's look for them to keep on rising. They're going to challenge. And I think as they progress and they're able to grow better chemistry and be able to grow together as a team, this could, come playoff time, be a very dangerous team. So it could be very interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, and they're coming up, I mean, over the next month, they play a lot of the Eastern Conference teams, so that honestly is going to probably be a lot of wins for them.
Yeah.
Cleveland,
Orlando. For sure.
Yeah. Let's see. There's quite a few teams against bottom tier East and West teams coming up for the Phoenix Suns. So for them to round up the first half of this season, I think they're going to finish probably top 5, top 6 in the West, and then it's really going to be a fun second half to watch in the NBA in the Western Conference.
Absolutely agree, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it works out. But I don't know, the NBA season's still very, very young. A lot still could happen. So we'll see exactly what will happen. And I know when it comes to our local teams, they aren't playing the greatest, but don't lose faith. That makes you a bad fan. Oh my goodness. But we still do have a lot of great things going on, including our awesome parent network, Podcast City Network. What more can you tell us about that, Craig?
Final Score is a proud member of Podcast City Network. Podcast City Network now has 20 independent podcast members across all genres of podcasting. You could find more about PCN on all major social media platforms, Facebook.com/Podcast City Network, Twitter @PodcastCityNet, YouTube, just search keywords Podcast City Network, and of course the website podcastcity.net.
Yeah, all the awesome and great stuff we have going on, including the introduction of the Rip Griffin Show now to the network, so definitely make sure to check them out as well. So much great stuff going on, and more definitely to come, so definitely make sure to check them out and all the great stuff we have going on. But that does mean it is now time for the good old Give or Go, and there's definitely going to be some interesting topics in this week's Give or Go, but we're going to start out a little more lighthearted with Ken Griffey Jr. joining MLB as a senior advisor to Commissioner Rob Manfred. Give or Go?
I definitely want to give him this slightly. Ken Griffey Jr., one of my favorite players of all time, but really what he's been brought on to help with consultant baseball operations and youth development, which is really a big thing for baseball, trying to get back into the youth communities. A lot of kids nowadays, they want to play football, they want to play basketball, but helping out getting in that community outreach for youth is going to help kind of propel the game of baseball forward. Manfred's really been bringing a lot of ex-players to kind of help him. And I don't know why he didn't do this a little bit earlier. Maybe it's because the flack, the pressure that he's been getting over the last year or so with fans is maybe starting to get to him. So he's starting to bring in guys to kind of help shore up the areas that he's not necessarily shown to be strong in. But this is really going to be interesting to see how this relationship plays out in baseball moving forward, starting this coming year.
Absolutely. I have to agree. And Ken Griffey Jr. being the recognizable name that he is and done everything that he's done in the league, it would make sense for him to be part of any kind of a community outreach, just because you want to have that likable face when you're trying to gain more fans and gain more support and gain more followers. So, yeah, not surprised by that, but definitely a good move by Ken Griffey. He's still trying to stay in and try and help make Major League Baseball better in some kind of way, because Manfred ain't doing the greatest of jobs. So here we are.
Next topic, 2021 Baseball Hall of Fame class is empty. Give or go?
Oh, we're going to give on this slightly, and because it doesn't make sense how outdated and crappy this entire process is to try and elect players to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And there's notable guys that are getting close to having their last chance to get in the Hall, including guys like Barry Bonds. And it's crazy that now guys like Barry Bonds have now pulled their name from future consideration just because of how archaic and how backwards this election process is, because you have to be able to hit a certain percentage of voting to be able to even get into the Hall, which I believe, I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, 75%. And
yep.
I think the closest we had was 70.4% or whatever it was. And still nobody gets into the Hall. That's absolutely atrocious. Why are we using this style of voting to be able to get players into the Hall? I understand there's been a lot of players. I understand that baseball has been around a long time, but you are literally doing a disservice to some of the greatest players that have ever suited up and walked out on that diamond by having this archaic style approach. Because now you have guys like, say what you say about Barry Bonds, the guy still did what he did and still was a phenomenal player before and after steroids. And he was still able to do a lot of things in baseball, and you're not going to have a guy like that included? I mean, but then again, this is the same type of people that think Pete Rose doesn't deserve a spot given everything he did just because, hey, he threw some money at some games, but whatever. So ridiculous. Ugh.
I mean, as good of a player as Pete Rose is, you can't include him in the Hall of Fame when he was fixing games. That's just, no, you can't do that.
Imagine maybe that's a little extreme, but still.
That's a little extreme.
Barry Bonds only did steroids. Come on now.
It just depends. So that's kind of, there's always been a lot of points of contention really about about what the process is all about with balloting, and like it's a bunch of old timers that are all purists and all that kind of stuff. It is what it is. But part of the reason why this class was empty, because if you remember, 2020 still has not been recognized yet because of COVID. So they're recognizing this year the last year's class, but it's just weird that, you know, we didn't have anybody voted into the 2021 class, but the 2022 class is going to be a very intriguing ballot to look at because we have a few more names that are jumping on. It's going to be interesting, but it was just, you know, all the weirdness that 2020 brought us, it just continues into 2021 because, you know, COVID. So
Now, my thing is, how do you not include Derek Jeter, though? Like, that guy of all guys. But, yeah, you're right. Next year will be crazier. I think there are guys that are going to make it in no matter what come next year just because you're not going to be able to ignore them, especially some of these first ballot guys, or obviously with the recognition of the 2020 season, all this kind of craziness. God, had to leave it to COVID to screw everything up, didn't we? But either way, I don't think we're going to run into this issue come next season. But I think it is time that they do make a change to how the selection process goes. Because honestly, you're just hurting the fans, you're hurting the players, and you're hurting your image. Like, how do you not elect a class every single year? And I know that sounds like, oh, you know, participation trophy. And I actually had somebody argue that with me. But it's not about participation trophies. It's about giving due to these players and these coaches who have literally bled, sweat, dropped tears for this sport and for these fans and for these teams. So I think that there needs to be recognition given, and things like this should just flat out should not happen. So
just remember, looking at the list of players that had received votes, Jeter's not on this. I don't believe he's eligible yet.
Oh, is he for next year?
I don't believe.
I thought it was this year.
I think he's next. I think he's next year. So I think he's next year, if I'm not mistaken. But looking at this list, you got Schilling, Bonds, Clemens are the top three. Those guys, there's been fringe arguments about whether they should be in the Hall anyway. I look at this list, I don't see any guys that absolutely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And that's just me. But I don't see anybody on this list that absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm kind of okay with being an empty class. I know it's rare, but that's why. That's why. Look at some of the no. Look at some of the last years that we've had maybe one. Look at some of the last years that we've had maybe one or two people that get voted in. Look at their names and the percentage they got, 75.1. It's because they're like, oh, we need somebody. Let's just finally give this guy into the Hall of Fame. I'm okay with having empty classes. If it's not deserved, don't give it out.
So would you be okay with empty classes in NFL Hall of Fame voting?
Depends on who's the ballot, yeah.
The thing is that you're never going to have players that aren't going to be able to be recognized because there's guys over the years, whether it ends up being a legacy pick or end up being a modern era pick, that end up getting in because they did things for their teams. And you're looking at baseball, which technically has much larger rosters, has more players on the field at one time. There's no reason why you can't tell me, especially given how long the history of baseball is, which supersedes football by multiple decades, that you aren't going to be able to find people to get elected into the Hall every single year, especially when you look at the NFL, who's pushing anywhere from 8, 10, 12 guys per year every single year. And you're telling me you can't do that in baseball? I find that absolutely ridiculous and hard to believe in any kind of way. It makes me not okay, because the thing is that if you want to turn this into a regular thing, which the NFL has turned the NFL honors into a whole huge thing, has turned their enshrinement into a huge event every single year. And if we're in an era of having to be cash strapped and borrowing money to be able to make sure teams have money to even run, then you need to find ways to generate money. You need to make sure that there's people enshrined every year and hold your event, make your money, be happy, and give the fans what they want. I mean, that seems like a no-nonsense kind of approach to me.
I'm 100% with you on the process needs to change.
Yes.
But look at what the MLB's done. Their draft process was, no one really cared about it. But what have they done in the last 2 years? They've started to emulate the NFL. You know, I agree. The NFL's doing things the right way. They should have legacy picks in baseball too. But I'm saying under their current format, I don't see anybody that deserves to be in right now.
But that's the problem, is that we're sitting here even talking about the fact that, with the current format, we shouldn't have to say things like, because of the current format. That same thing with the college football playoff. It needs to change. It's one of those things that we've just kind of grown accustomed to because it's what we've done for so damn long that everybody's just like, well, this is how we've done it. What's wrong? I mean, yeah, you know what? Racism was a huge thing. So was slavery. But guess what? We ousted those eventually because they aren't right. Just like the system is not right. And I know it's kind of a stretch to kind of compare those things, but still, at the end of the day, there needs to be change made. And it's not being made. And everybody's just going around, it's okay. And we're letting Rob Manfred just be the jackass he is and not do anything about it either. So I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think it needs to happen. Pressure needs to be made on the BWAA to try and make this change.
BBWAA.
Yeah, there it is. So many letters.
Do we need to bring back the Fire Manfred sign?
You know what? We might need to. We might need to bring back that sign. But
I'll bring it back. I'll find place for it on the set.
Oh God, I love it. But you know what? Changing gears from one Hall of Fame to another that's actually more respectable, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, and Calvin Johnson were among 8 elected just yesterday to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Give or go.
I mean, we got to talk real quick about this. I mean, that headlining of a class. I mean, you've got, like you mentioned, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Calvin Johnson. Those guys all getting into the Hall of Fame. Very well deserved. I'm looking at the whole list here, pulling it up right now if they have it. But
yeah,
I mean,
got it right here. It has a lot of great players.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, it has a lot of great players, including my screen's jumping around. Including Charles Woodson, obviously Peyton Manning, which was his first year of eligibility as well. But we also we're seeing Alan Faneca, the former Pittsburgh Steelers guard, get enshrined as well. Oh my goodness, why does this thing keep jumping around?
John Lynch,
that's the name I was looking for. The current GM of the San Francisco 49ers and former Buccaneers and Broncos defensive back. And John Lynch, I remember watching John Lynch play. That dude was literally a freight train that would just run you over. It was amazing to watch. But we also saw some other former players like wide receiver Drew Pearson of the Dallas Cowboys get inducted. He's a senior inductee, as well as Steelers scout and personnel executive Bill Nunn, who was posthumously enshrined, and then also former Raiders and Seattle Seahawks coach Tom Flores, the lone candidate in the new coach category this year, who's also now bound for Canton. So honestly, it's really great. I think this is a really strong class, and obviously when you have a guy like Peyton Manning, especially who's a first ballot guy, there's no way, or a first year of eligibility, there's no way you leave him off getting into the Hall of Fame. Everything Peyton Manning has done in the NFL, yes, you can say what you want to say about his playoff record, but that guy, if you wanted a regular season quarterback, that was your guy, and there was no one better. Go ahead and argue for Tom Brady. Tom Brady won Super Bowls. He didn't set records like Peyton Manning did in a lot of categories. It took him a little longer, the age thing, So the end,
Peyton Manning, yeah, those two guys are in two different categories, and I completely agree with that, because Peyton Manning, he was the trailblazer for what the quarterback position is today, how it's such a pass-happy league. He was one of the trailblazers for that. Absolutely. I'm just happy to see this guy get in, Megatron. Yes, he was on a bunch of terrible Detroit teams, but he was the most dominant receiver in his tenure.
Mm-hmm.
Physically dominant. Talk about Randy Moss and all that kind of stuff all you want. I'm talking about physically dominant receiver. Megatron, nobody better during his tenure. I'm so happy to see that he got in. I mean, he finished as Detroit's leader in targets with 1,300 targets, receptions 731, yards over 11,000, and 83 receiving touchdowns. His 84 total touchdowns is only second in Lions history to none other than also Hall of Famer Barry Sanders. So I'm happy to see him get in. So excited to have another member of the Lions join the Hall of Fame class. Charles Woodson, Michigan alum, very versatile in the defensive backfield, played corner a lot, obviously for the Raiders, and making that transition to safety to play for the Packers, and the success that he's had just in the locker room and on the field. Absolutely happy to see him get in as well.
And I want to give some props to Calvin Johnson, because Calvin Johnson is only 35 years old and is now only the third player inducted into the Hall of Fame that was aged 35 or younger, along Gale Sayers and Jim Brown. So honestly, huge hats off to Calvin Johnson, especially like you said, playing in Detroit where it's not easy to do anything, let alone win games, that he's able to go through there, survive his whole career there, and still end up being a another first-time player on the ballot being able to be voted in his first year, which also is only, I think, the third time that this has actually ever happened in the past 4 years that 3 first-time eligible players have been selected for enshrinement in the same year. In 2019, it was Champ Bailey, Tony Gonzalez, and Ed Reed. And then obviously in 2018, it was Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, and Brian Urlacher. So really great company to be with when, then you look at having Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, and Calvin Johnson, like huge names that are making it in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last topic, and we save this, the best for last. This is going to be basically the end of the show. EA Sports finally announces it is bringing college football back to the next-gen consoles. I'm not even going to ask. I want to hear your take.
That's my take, because it's absolutely amazing that this is finally happening after what's been 7-8 years of waiting for EA to finally figure out a way to make this happen. Obviously, we know because of the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit that any kind of college video games, whether it been basketball, baseball, football, all of it canned because of the NIL issues that surrounded the games, EA Sports, the universities, and the players. So to see EA Sports come out and say that they are now officially bringing back what is now being dubbed EA Sports College Football is absolutely amazing. Obviously, there's a ton of questions about the game, about when it's actually going to come out. But guess what? We don't know. They have not committed to an actual timeline yet, just saying that they are now in development and are looking at a lot of options and licensing. They called it roadblocks is what they used. Just roadblocks that they have to get through to be able to make sure that they can do this. Now, a lot of assumptions is with this that the licensing will go directly through the universities, obviously for their name, colors, stadiums, uniforms, history, all that kind of stuff to be able to include. Beyond that, players are not expected, at least at this time, to be included in any kind of way and will all be randomly generated no matter what game mode you play in. However, that could change given that Congress as well as the NCAA are pushing for NIL laws and NIL reform. So that could end up coming into play here, especially if they do get through the proposed NIL laws that we had actually covered back in spring here on Final Score, and could actually pave the way to where EA could either go and individually contract with players, the big name players in college football. And this could set a precedent for a number of reasons. And all I know, though, is I am so happy. I literally almost cried when I heard this news. And say what you will, this is my favorite game of all time. I have played NCAA college football since, 1998, 1999. So this was one ingrained in me. I know you're happy, but obviously I got to let you have your thoughts on it too.
I just hope one thing, okay? NCAA 14, and people still play it today. We were streaming it last year. Like, I was still streaming it last year, and this game, in my humble opinion, it was already pretty close to perfection. So don't break what isn't broken. Don't try to fix what isn't broken, okay?
It ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right. So if EA wants to make this a huge success, literally take that game, update it for next-gen consoles. Don't try to get too fancy. Don't try to do the bullshit you're doing with Madden right now in making everything about loot boxes and all this kind of bullshit. Don't do that stuff, okay? Mm-hmm. Just take NCAA 14. Get as many people that were on that project as you can, as many of the important people as you can. Bring them back on. If they bring on the same team or similar team, this is going to be a fantastic platform. The sales are going to be through the roof, and they're going to be super excited. But if they try to pull some bullshit that they've been pulling on a bunch of the recent EA products and make everything basically pay to play and all, now it's like Madden where you got to buy all this Ultimate Team shit, it's going to fail. It's going to fail, and people are going to stop buying it immediately. What I'm very excited about, this also paves the way for a little bit of a lesser-known game, 2 of them actually. What I want to see, with college football coming back, I want to see 2 games come back. I want to see college basketball come back, and I want to see college baseball make a return. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. I want to see those 2 games come back. Let's see those come back. So let's hope college football gets off to a good start. Hopefully this paves the way for like 2K to bring back the college hoops series. That would be awesome. And I would love to see the MVP baseball make a return from 2005. People are still playing that game now. I would love to see all three of those games make a comeback.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Because you know what? College athletics need video games again because we're dying for it. So give us the games. Do it now. But you know what else you could do right now is you can go on over and join Podcast City Network and become part of the great ever-expanding community of shows that we now have on the network. Because the great thing about Podcast City Network is that they offer so many kinds of different membership services that include things like logo design and branding, live podcast hosting, transcription services, all kinds of crazy stuff. And on top of that, you also gain access to our entire network of shows that are going to really help you with being able to get interview guests and cross-promoting and being able just to kind of increase your reach and be able to get yourself out there more as part of our community that's always ever expanding. Like we said today, the Rip Griffin Show, our newest addition to the network. So we are expanding all the time. And the best part of all of it is that there's no membership fees. You don't have to pay anything out of pocket to be a part of Podcast City Network. So what are you waiting for? Go to podcastcity.net/join now and join the fastest growing independent podcast network around, Podcast City Network. Which, if we're talking about that now means it is time for good old meme madness. And we definitely got some fun ones today. And we had to make up for the fact that, there wasn't an episode last week. So this one's a little fat. I think we only have like 9 or so today. But it's going to be some good ones. And we're going to kick it right off the top with a really good one. Because we do, like we said, we know we weren't around last week. And we know how saddening that can be. And I know some people were just looking at their picture of episode 92, waiting just like Wolverine is, hoping that it would happen. But we're here, and here we are. So, it's all good. But we know that maybe during that time off, you might have had some issues, maybe some kind of headaches. And sadly, it may not have been a migraine or hypertension or stress, but it might have just been all over your damn head. Because, hey, we lose our heads too when we miss Final Score. Oh my goodness. But, we did have a great thing happen in our last episode 91 of Final Score. And that was the great return of Craig. And we had one of our fans reach out who made a Return of the King. Don't get your head too big now. A Return of the King meme for you, Craig. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty good. It is pretty good.
Yeah, I like that one. That was good. That's a Jimmy special right there. I appreciate that.
That's a Jimmy special. Yeah, definitely a good one. But you know me, I'm never going to be able to get through meme madness without having something to say about college football and #downwithCFP, because we all know that anybody who supports the college football playoff in its current format probably doesn't need to be shot again. So open your eyes, people, and realize the playoff is not good right now. It is not inclusive. Oh my goodness, so much ridiculous. And I got to do it again because Kylo Ren, I think, is not even cool with the college football playoff, and he wants to see it ground down in the dust too. So, my gosh, so many good memes. I love this. But I'm surprised we actually made it this far without having one of these memes. But you aren't truly making it with memes until you're a Drake meme. So people that want to expand the college football playoffs, but the people that want to be #downwithCFP.
This next one is probably one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this one was posted up by JDM, if I'm not mistaken, about talking about some local stuff or I shouldn't say local, but some news that we've had in the
recent
stock market.
News,
yeah, recent news. Let me English today and learn how to communicate. But if you don't know anything about what's happening with GameStop and the stock market and the subreddits and all that kind of crazy stuff, we want to be able to give you a accurate representation of basically what happened with GameStop from September 2020 to basically now in sports format. And I think this is the most beautiful look that you can do.
That's probably the most accurate representation of what happened to GameStop stock.
Yes.
It's those two.
Oh, yeah. It's too good. But, today is a special day because getting all the way back around, Super Bowl 55 is taking place. But, we want to kind of recap how we got here. And 2 weeks ago, we saw a crazy battle between the Bills and the Chiefs and, of course, the Packers and the Bucks, which was really 2 kids fighting each other and 2 old men fighting each other. So, I mean, Oh, man. But the big thing is, though, is that obviously we made our predictions. But, I know, again, I've been asked, I don't know about you, Craig, but for the past 2 weeks, everybody's been asking me, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? What do you think is going to happen in the Super Bowl? Does Tom Brady do it? All these crazy questions. And it ended up spurring on this meme about when you hear people making Super Bowl picks, but you haven't watched Final Score yet. So, I mean, a lot of people put value in what we say, but hey, I know, I've been pretty good with my picks this year. I didn't even track it this year, but I mean, hey, maybe next year we'll do it again.
because of COVID, we didn't track, like, we usually track college football picks. We track NFL picks every week. Like, we didn't do that this year. It was, I mean, we're definitely doing it again next year. It was very weird. Very weird.
But you know what's not weird?
We haven't. Podchaser.
That's right. Podchaser's not weird. What can you tell us about that?
I didn't know if you were waiting for me to do it. I was like, okay, well, all right, Podchaser. But no, the great thing about Podchaser, if you're not familiar, Podchaser is your daily source for podcast discovery. Apple Podcasts is no longer the only credible place that you can rate and review podcasts. You can follow creators, you can browse every podcast ever, and you can even rate and review individual episodes. We are also on Podchaser. Just go to podchaser.com and search keyword FinalScore, one word. Go ahead, give us a follow, a rating, a review on Podchaser. There's a lot of cool stuff they're doing there. It's becoming a really big source for podcasters everywhere. Podchaser.com.
So I have to I have to lay waste to the chat right now. Or not lay waste, but like just point to the chat right now. Sorry. Because while you're doing the whole Podchaser thing, I started reading through the comments and just chuckling because JDM of Not a Hockey Market Podcast comes on and said, GameStop stock is to Barry Bonds as PB is to jelly. Oh, it's just so crazy. So crazy. And shout out to Jimmy, still saying that he plays NCAA 07 on Xbox. That definitely was a good one with Reggie Bush on the cover.
Yeah.
Definitely a great game. And anytime you want to run it, Jimmy, I got 13 and 14 here. So, you know, always ready anytime.
Yeah.
Stay strapped.
we got 14 at this house, too.
Yeah. That's how we do it.
Still fire up that dynasty mode once in a while.
Got to, man. You got to. But looking at the week ahead, obviously tonight we do have the Super Bowl 55 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That will be going live 6:30 p.m. on CBS. So definitely make sure to check it out. Then you can come back next week and let us know how right we were with our picks. Don't forget I said Bucks 34-31 last second field goal. Making that known.
31-27 Bucks. And again, if you want to get everything in about before the Super Bowl, we will have the Bucks Report interview with Philip Schwegler is going to be released on all social media today. So it'll be right after this episode. We're going to post it on all social media. So if you want to learn about the Bucks perspective and what they need to do to win the Super Bowl tonight, go check that out. We're going to post it all on social media today.
Absolutely. And speaking of our boy JDM, you can check out new episodes of Not a Hockey Market Podcast weekly. Just make sure to check out 90 Miles Media and Podcast City Network to see the post for Not a Hockey Market Podcast and all the great stuff that JDM's doing over there, as well as our newest edition, the Rip Griffin Show, which you can find weekly. I think it's every Friday, if I'm not mistaken. They also made an announcement that they were going to be doing something on this Wednesday. So keep an eye out on all their social media at the Rip Griffin Show on Facebook, at Rip Griffin Show on Twitter. And of course, you can go on YouTube and search the Rip Griffin Show and find them there as well. Give them a like, give them a follow, and subscribe to their pages. That way you can keep up on all the latest baseball news from our great guys over at the Rip Griffin Show. Welcome, guys. Awesome to have you.
Yeah, they're doing some great stuff right now. They're going team by team every episode and bringing in guests, writers and people that are around the team to break down that team, what they've been doing in the offseason, their chances for the next year. Lots of really cool stuff on their YouTube page, so go check it out.
Absolutely. And of course, Double Dime is making its return finally tonight for their Super Bowl kickoff special, which will go live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube Live. So make sure to go on to YouTube and search Fixed Edge Investing, and you'll be able to find episodes of Double Dime there, including the live episode. And I will be on there as the special guest co-host tonight, so definitely make sure to come check us out, where I will beat you over the head with my Super Bowl pick once again, if you didn't hear it a little bit ago. So definitely make sure to check us out with Double Dime.
I want to hear if anyone's doing any prop bets. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to watch that tonight because I want to hear about prop bets. Those are always fun.
Oh, yeah, and I'm
Super
sure
Bowl
S-Money will have plenty to talk about with that once we get live at 5:30. But also don't forget, episode 93 of Final Score next Sunday live at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook Live, where we'll be doing our Super Bowl recap, as well as starting to, take those baby steps towards the NFL draft. So definitely make sure to join us next week. We'll have tons to talk about. Definitely going to be a great show. But, man, that definitely that brings us to the end of our show. We thank you guys so much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning. And obviously, enjoy yourselves in the Super Bowl. Don't get too crazy. Be careful at Super Bowl parties, and don't catch the COVID. It's not fun. So, any last words, Craig?
Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for all the support. Like, follow, subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. We really do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much for continual support. As you see, we do have our goals still above us. The numbers are going up, and we thank you guys so much for supporting the show and everything we do here at Final Score. But we got to keep driving. We're trying to keep getting it to more people. So like, share, comment, subscribe. Bring your friends in, invite them over, show them Final Score and all the greatness that we try to bring when it comes to our weekly dose of sports news. But sadly, that is
talk shit in the comments. Bring in, we're always looking for new guests and interviews to have for the show to bring some great content to everybody.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. But sadly, that is our week's episode. Definitely join us next week for episode 93. But until then, I'm Chris, and that's Craig, and you guys have just watched Final Score. Y'all have a great night. Podcast City Network.